welcome to this episode of Tripology. I'm Alun, and I'm here with the ever alpine Adam.
Oh, Alan, I'm so glad to be here, mate. I've got a little sneaking suspicion this episode might involve some mountains.
Oh, we're moving around temporally. It's like the blooming prisoner of Azkaban in this podcast. But you know, and I know, and we've felt very much. I've been away for a long while in the Himalayas doing ever such a trek, haven't I?
Yes, it has felt really long, actually. And I know that, it's not been that long, but I think you were so present in my life when you were in Canada and I had the luxury of being with you all the time. And then you've gone away and we've not spoken that much. And that is, in part because of course, what you're doing, but also the lack of Wi-Fi and this kind of stuff. And it's just such an amazing thing for you to have gone away after a really, really long year of lots and lots of hard work on projects and things, and then gone and done something so incredible as to travel Nepal.
I sent you a text. I said, Adam, I've decided I'm going to do a 20-day trek through the Himalayas.
Yeah, which is a hell of an undertaking, because I wouldn't say that you're, please don't take any offence to this. I wouldn't say that you're, I don't know how much preparation in terms of fitness training you did for a 20-day hike is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, I was really fit when I was in Canada, and then I went to Belize and Guatemala and was in the UK for a while and definitely lost my level of fitness. But I decided to do, basically, I was deciding which trek to do. Do I do EBC, Everest Base Camp? Do I do the Annapurna circuit? And I thought,
right.
You know what? You always tell me, never say, oh, I'll do that when I come back, because you never end up coming back. And so I thought I'll do the most amazing trek that Nepal has to offer, which I determined to be the 3 Passes trek.
Okay, and I really am interested in learning a little bit more about this, because obviously I don't have any context. I know roughly how these things kind of work when you go to, a place that's quite well travelled and there's other backpackers or tourist companies or maybe companies that organise these treks. Is it very much like picking an item on a menu and you can kind of do one or all of them? They obviously entail different things. They last for different lengths of time. So, does it depend on where you want to end up? Is it like a point to point A to B, or is it a big loop, or how do you decide?
Most of them begin and start in the same city. You can either leave out of Pokhara or leave out of Kathmandu, and there are some main trips that people do. The Annapurna circuit's a really popular one, but one that's shorter than that, you could just go to Annapurna Base Camp. You can go to Everest Base Camp, or you can do the full 3 passes, or you can go to Manaslu or Mustang, lower and higher. There's lots of different treks that you can do. And there's tour companies that provide guides and all-inclusive experiences on these treks.
Right. Okay.
Previously, it's been possible to do them on your own, self-guided. But in April this year, they decided no more trekking without a guide, which has reduced tourism massively in Nepal.
Wow.
However, although that's federally the law, provincially it's unenforced. So I made the decision I was still going to do the 3 Passes trek without a guide.
You're joking. Against your better judgment.
Not only am I not joking, I think it's important to let people know. Because provincially, the people in Nepal hate the ruling that you can't do without a guide. It reduces tourism. It's not good for them. It stops people from going to these guest houses and spending money. It's really not a good thing.
Okay.
And so provincially, it's not enforced. I know I've seen online a lot of people deciding not to come to Nepal because they don't want the expense of hiring a guide.
Goodness.
So for some people, a guide might be important, might make them feel safe and comfortable. But for people who want to go alone, that, as of now, is still possible.
And a guide is there for which reason? Is it for safety? Is it so that what is the likelihood of you getting lost on a trail?
Well, a lot of these companies will provide you with a guide and a porter. A porter, obviously, to carry your belongings, and a guide to help you book stays in guest houses, take the stress of all that out of them. Obviously, they'll be reading the maps, they'll be going on the trail, they'll be telling you a little bit about the area, that sort of thing.
Okay.
It might be nice to have a guide. You definitely don't have to worry about what you're doing, making a plan, what's the next day, that sort of thing. But certainly the trails are well marked and easy to navigate enough that it's not essential if you have any sort of navigation or hiking experience.
Wow. Okay. So you would encourage people, perhaps, because it isn't a rule that's being enforced at a provincial level, to, if they are able to and if they feel comfortable to, still hike without a guide.
At their comfort level, yeah. If you feel comfortable hiking without a guide for 10, 11, 12, up to 20 days, then I would recommend it, yeah.
Cool. Incredible. Wow, I look forward to hearing more.
Yeah, so I bought some hiking poles, I bought a woolly hat, I rented a -20 sleeping bag, I rented a down jacket for just $1 a day per item. I went on the Hostel World app and I found some other travellers who were going hiking, and I basically manifested a team of hikers, and I decided, Adam, I could sit here and tell you all about my experiences, but what would be better than that is if I recorded day by day, as it happened, what happened for the entirety of the hike. So every single day I was hiking, for all 20 days, I recorded a little message for Tropology describing the day, what I was thinking, feeling, and going through. So I began the journey. I took a Jeep to meet with one of the travellers that I met on this app. I'd as yet not met them, right? This was just an online relationship. I just needed some people to go hiking with. Yeah. So I set out from Kathmandu, and these are the recordings. Shall we play them now?
Yeah, I'd love to hear them. This is amazing. I'm so excited.
Yes, let's go. Let's go, and we'll interject again at a time that's appropriate. But this is my Himalayan 3-pass adventure story in recording form. Oh, I very much apologise for the audio recording. This is just on my phone because I'm on this trek. Day 1, I have just taken a Jeep from Kathmandu in the morning all the way to Salary, where I've met up with a French girl who I've been talking to using the Hostel World app. We're going to go trekking together and with a couple more people. It's a very bumpy Jeep ride, very crazy, lots of Nepali music being played. Very bumpy ride. My goodness, I feel like I've got a concussion. I wrapped my sleeping bag around my head so that I wouldn't keep on hitting it against the window of the car. And I've just arrived in Salary and checked in, met the French girl, checked into a little lodge where I'm just about to have some noodles. And then on day 2, tomorrow, we're going to get to start the trek. So I'm excited about that. Day 2, me and Emmy, the French girl, took another Jeep all the way to Damdara. It's not a big distance, but it's a crazy, crazy route. It's like lots of bumpiness, lots of up and down, probably bumpier than the first one. It kind of took all day. We also met a Spanish couple in the Jeep, so we kind of all teamed up together and we've walked a little bit, had to take a detour because of some road constructions and some heavy mule traffic, pack mules all on the road. Kind of did about an hour or 2 of walking and we've ended up in this lodge, this guest house. It's really cool. It's really nice here. Tomorrow we're going to make for Phak Ding in the morning. Day 3, the first proper day of trekking, of walking through the Himalayas. We made for Phak Ding, so me, Emmy and the Spanish couple, we all got on foot, trekking poles in hand, beautiful scenic route. There's heavy mule traffic and heavy yak traffic, and it's amazing to see how much stuff the porters are carrying. We saw a guy today carrying like north of 90 kilograms on his back, and a lot of it's uphill, a lot of it's crazy. It's wild to see.
they're only supposed to be carrying about 25 kilograms, but obviously in order to get more money, some of them carry way in excess of that. And it's not just porters for tourists backpack. It's also porters for, they're bringing supplies up the mountain. So very, very crazy to see. The trek itself was absolutely beautiful. And we've just checked into this little guest house lodge in Phak Ding where we're enjoying a fire. We're warming up. It's just nice to spend time in good company. Everyone's really nice. Everyone's really sweet. We're playing a few games of cards. Looking forward to having a good night's sleep. Oh, we also met up with another guy in Phak Ding, a guy from Belgium who's going to be another trekking companion for us. We met him online as well, just searching for other trekkers doing the Three Passes trek. So we'll get to know him a bit better tomorrow, I'm sure. Day 4. Didn't sleep so well last night. We're not at a crazy high altitude. We're only about 2,700 meters, something like that. But I don't know, just felt a little bit off. So didn't sleep that well. But woke up, drank some water, and we're trekking all the way to Namche Bazaar today, which is a really, really high altitude little town. It's about 3,400 meters in the Himalayas, a population of just over 1,000. So it was a big, long trek. The Spanish couple raced ahead, which gave me and Emmy a good chance to get to know Lucas, who's the guy from Belgium. Really nice to be trekking with these guys. Everyone's so sweet and wonderful and amazing to hang out with. The scenery is absolutely beautiful. There's these swing bridges that go over rivers through the mountains. It was a fairly flat trek, but the last kilometre had a lot of elevation getting up to Namche Bazaar. And Namche Bazaar, bizarre indeed, is one of the craziest places I've ever seen. It's like I hesitate to say town. It's like a city almost, in the Himalayan mountains, really high up. So it's home of the highest live music venue in the world. There's a bunch of supply stores for trekkers and yeah, really, really crazy. So yeah, we're going to spend a day here just acclimatizing. So tomorrow we're just going to acclimatize to the new altitude and do all that stuff. So I'll fill you in on how that goes. Day 5. Today was our first acclimatization day. So Namche Bazaar is about 3,500 meters and we're just spending a day here to get our bodies used to it. And I will say, we're struggling, some of us. I kind of feel very queasy, headachy. I'm taking Diamox, which is like a altitude sickness tablet, and Emmy as well, not feeling too great. We took a hike up to a viewpoint today, a viewpoint that was about 3,900 meters. Amazing views of Everest, absolutely beautiful, but the hike itself felt kind of grueling, I think, because of the altitude. A word on altitude sickness. So the percentage of oxygen in the atmosphere is actually the same as it would be at sea level, but because of the reduced air pressure up this high, it's less kind of readily available to you. So you actually just don't get as much oxygen with each breath, and that causes a whole load of symptoms. So yeah, we did that hike, went back down to Namche Bazaar, explored Namche Bazaar a little bit. It's kind of like I liken Namche Bazaar a bit to like Cloud City in Empire Strikes Back. It's sort of this unique town that I think exists outside of regular society. It's really kind of beautiful to see. It's this community. Everything, all the supplies there have to be brought up by porters or mules or yaks, but it's a really thriving city. So yeah, fun acclimatization day, feeling a little bit rough. Hopefully tomorrow we'll have got through the worst of the sickness, we'll have acclimatized to the altitude, and we're ready to continue on our journey to Temboche. So there we are, Adam. Let's just stop the voice recordings for a moment and return temporally to the here and now. I'm feeling a little bit sick.
Altitude's no joke. What, are you enjoying the voice notes so far?
I love it. I love it. I've got to say, the overwhelming kind of energy I'm getting from your voice notes is overall very positive, but I've got no doubt you were exerting yourself. This is something that physically is very difficult.
Yeah, and it was at the start, it felt like something where I didn't even know if I could do it. I very much was talking to myself in a negative way sometimes. But then when I would get to the guest house and get my phone out and record those voice notes, then you feel this overwhelming sense of relief. Trekking is no joke. It's really, really hard work.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was loving every minute of it, really.
It's made even more difficult if you're riding in a car that's, the journey's so bumpy that you've actually got to form a sleeping bag turban around your head so that your head's not ricocheting off the window.
Yeah, definitely. The only way I could fall asleep. But I did sleep. My vehicular somnambulism was at full play in those Jeep rides. But yeah.
And one thing I wanted to ask as well, you did allude to this in the beginning of the episode, because you were sending me a picture or two every now and again with the sort of gear that you were wearing. And I know that you wouldn't have gone to Nepal with this gear, or you were wearing sort of a coat that I wasn't sure you owned. So I thought, are there businesses that allow you to rent these items, or are there stores where you can buy these things, or maybe backpackers recycling their garments? How do people know what sort of weather to expect and how to prepare? Because I imagine in the mountains it's a slightly different temperature or weather system to, let's say in Kathmandu.
Yeah, like I said, I rented my sleeping bag and my down jacket. Those two items I rented for $1 a day, 100 rupees or thereabouts a day. But other than that, people are selling things. I found some warm hiking pants. Again, on the Hostel World app, I was messaging another traveller, and I went to his hostel to collect these warm hiking pants. Did the same for a set of crampons, did the same for a set of gaiters. Like, these are all items I just found that other backpackers were getting rid of and selling.
Nice. The Hostel World app, I mean, I've not used it, and I didn't even know about it before you had told me about it, but it sounds like it was integral to your sort of, communication and meeting up with people. Is it very much so a sort of swipe right, swipe left kind of ordeal?
It's been integral to my travelling in general. Like, I don't know what I used to do without it.
Wow.
But basically, yeah, when you book a hostel, you're just put into a chat of
right.
all of Kathmandu, all of the Hostel World people in Kathmandu, and a chat of your hostel. So I just post messages and they're like, is there anyone giving away some hiking pants? Does anyone want to come on the 3 passes?
That sounds like the most amazing chat-up line I've ever heard. Is anyone giving away some hiking pants? Alun, 29, from Manchester.
Exactly, no, but it's been invaluable.
That's wicked. That's so cool, mate. And I think normally people would say at this point, this episode is not sponsored by Hostel World.
Yeah, or warm hiking pants.
Yeah. But let us know if you're listening.
But what it is sponsored by, this podcast, like with every podcast that we do, is the concept of meditation. And I'd love to go on a meditation break right now. Shall we go?
Let's go.
I feel beautiful after that meditation break. I wish I'd had a meditation break when I was in the mountains, let me tell you that.
Well, one thing I do want to talk to you about, which sounds pretty crazy, is the town of Namche Bazaar. Talk to me about it, because on the voice note, I mean, we heard that you said it almost sort of exists out of normal society or something. It's very high. I've looked at pictures on the internet so that I could see what it looked like. It's almost terraced, isn't it? It's sort of this series of steps with buildings on them. It does look rather strange. It almost looks like I want to say sort of an amphitheatre, like a coliseum.
It feels very unusual. It feels very strange because you've only been walking for a couple of days at that point, and then you sort of burst up into this sky city where suddenly there's coffee shops and bars and places to go and people to see. It feels very, very unusual indeed. I kind of love Namche Bazaar. It was a shame that I was feeling unusually sick when I was there, but I think it's like a really cool place. It has a real vibe about it.
Yeah, yeah, it looked awesome. Is it sort of thriving? Is it very busy with people doing a similar thing to you? Because another thing I wanted to ask is on these hiking trails. I know you didn't go with a guide, but do you often bump into lots of other hikers that are doing sort of similar trails?
Yeah, definitely. Namche Bazaar is a gathering point of all these other hikers. We're kind of at
Cool.
the end of the season when we're on this trip, so it would have been even more packed in sort of mid-November, early November sort of time. But still, very much a hub of people all sharing stories about their treks and their trails.
We heard you're getting hit, or at least trying to avoid altitude sickness.
Yeah.
How do you know? You mentioned. How do you know? Or you mentioned about an acclimatization day.
Yeah.
And just stopping and sort of trying to acclimatise yourself to the altitude. How do you know when to have one of those?
I mean, to an extent, they're preordained. There's like certain stops that people use as acclimatization stops over the course of a trek, like the three passes. So we knew that there was going to be one in Namche. We knew that there was going to be one further down the road, which you'll hear later in the recordings. So basically, when you're at a new sort of elevation and you're going to be pushing onwards, you're going to want to stop and take a little time.
Right, okay. And is it losing your appetite a common symptom of altitude sickness?
Yeah, very much. And also a symptom of the medication that you take to help with the altitude sickness.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, if we can, I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, well, we're talking about Namche Bazaar. Let's return to Namche Bazaar right now and hear what happens during and after that acclimatization day. Let's go there now.
Day 6, I felt a lot better this morning after taking the Diamox, and Emmy did too. The group's become really tight-knit. We've got the Spanish couple with Louis and Rosa, and we've got Lucas and Emmy and I, and we're all good friends at this point. We got up there, and the Spanish couple, they're trying to head a bit further than us. They're doing a slightly different set of treks. So they raced off in the morning, said goodbye to them, and Lucas, Emmy and I were heading out to try and get to Temboche. It's a fairly easy trek, this one, in terms of distance, but we don't gain much altitude because it goes down and then up, so it should be okay, we thought. And in reality, we were just a little bit slow because obviously me and Emmy recovering from a bit of the altitude sickness. It's funny because I've actually been higher than this when I was hiking like in Rainbow Mountain in Peru and Salcantay Trail. But I think the difference is the cold, because the cold further reduces the air pressure. Obviously, it makes that oxygen even harder to access. So I think that's the reason why we've been suffering a little bit. The worst symptom so far has been like the lack of an appetite. I've just not felt like eating at all. So I was hiking today to Temboche, fueled only by like a tomato soup, but felt a little bit better, got there. Temboche is like a very remote town. There's just a monastery and a couple of tea houses. I'll talk a little bit more about the tea houses when I catch up with you guys tomorrow. Day 7. Today we hiked to Dingboche. This is another fairly big elevation gain. We broke 4,000 meters for the first time. We're at about 4,500 meters now in Dingboche. The hike itself went really well. Me and Emmy feeling a lot better. Lucas strong as always. Hiked straight there. We actually hiked to a nearby town because, we didn't follow the map, basically. Emmy was telling us, look, the map's telling us to go here, and me and Lucas asked some locals and they said to go this way. We overruled and went that way, and we should have gone where the map said, and we ended up having to scale this big cliff face to get back on track and get to Dingboche. But here we are in Dingboche. Everything's going really well. So we're staying in these tea houses, and the rule is in a lot of these tea houses, because it's slightly towards the end of the season. We're hiking now, end of November. We'll be hiking until the middle weeks of December. You can kind of get the accommodation for free. Normally they would charge, anywhere from 200 to 1,000 rupees. But if you promise to eat dinner and have breakfast at the lodge restaurant, they'll usually just say, yeah, take a couple of beds for free. Very simple accommodation. It's very cold now, so we're just in sleeping bags on the beds, blankets over us. And yeah, the accommodation's free of charge, but we're having lovely meals and stuff down in the restaurants. Playing a lot of card games, keeping spirits up, trying to stay warm. Showering is obviously crazy. It's cold showers only. You can pay for hot showers, but none of us are. So we're just bearing the Himalayan ice water or kind of just using wet wipes. We're slumming it out here. But I tell you what, Adam, the views of Lhotse in particular, we can sort of see Everest just peeking over, but Lhotse in particular, the view, amazing. I'm so privileged to be walking on this route, seeing these mountains every minute of the trek is such a beautiful, beautiful experience. So feeling really lucky. It's getting to the sort of point in these treks where I'm taking moments. There's lots of laughs and fun and excitement and all this stuff. But I'm just really enjoying. I'm really enjoying having a laugh with those people. And I'm also enjoying the introspective moments in between walking a long way, you know? I'm having a really good time. I'm grateful to be here. And we've got an acclimatization day in Dingboche tomorrow. So I'll check in and let you know how that goes. An acclimatization day in Dingboche. Yeah, it's day 8. Today we acclimatized by doing a day hike to Chukung, but it was the first snow of the season here in the Himalayas. So while we originally set out on this trip intending to do 3 passes, the first pass is not going to be possible because of the snow, which works out quite well because of Lucas's kind of flight. He needs to be back by the 12th anyway, so it's all good. We got to experience some snow in the Himalayas, did a nice walk to Chukung and back, visited a little coffee place in Chukung. It was nice. I've not had a coffee this whole trip. Using it as an opportunity to quit caffeine, don't you know? But I did have a coffee in Chukung. I think, you know, and every now and again in moderation, it's okay. Yeah, I'm still really enjoying it. The distances are not marked well by the time it takes. I mean, the hike to Chukung was a matter of a few kilometers, but I mean, it's a 5-hour return journey because uphill, downhill, over stones and all of that. It really is a unique trekking experience. Tomorrow we are hiking to Lobuche, and I'll tell you all about that tomorrow. Woke up and did a long old hike to Lobuche. You might be wondering why all these names sound so similar. Tengbuche, Dingbuche, Lobuche. It's because Boche is like the Nepali Sherpa language for flat land. So it's just little flat spots in the Himalayas where people have chosen to settle. The Sherpa people, maybe now's a good time to talk about them a little bit. They're amazing. They're like genetically predisposed to the climate here. Less affected by altitude sickness and just, I mean, seemingly every inch of their anatomy is designed to be up here at this altitude, trekking and moving through these mountains. It's really quite phenomenal, and they're incredibly friendly, incredibly sweet, and they have some great kind of local foods that they offer us here. The Sherpa stew is really beautiful. Loving interacting with the Sherpa people who are here in the Everest region of the Himalayas. The trek to Lobuche was, really interesting, really beautiful trek. There's so many things that happen on these treks. I heard a comedian once say, if you can't tell people stories of things that happen, then that just means, if you say you have to be there, then that just means that you're not telling the story well enough. But there's so much that has gone on these treks that's make me laugh, from seeing people collecting yak dung to use in the furnaces, to me trying to tame a crow to be our friend. There's so many little instances that are so amazing that I've shared with Emmy and Lucas. It's been just a really fun time. So yeah, trekking, I think it unlocks something. It unlocks this aspect of your own mind. There's a lot I want to talk about with regards to the thinking that I've been doing as I've been walking. I'm sure that'll come up in later voice notes. Tomorrow, we hike from Lobuche to Gorakshep, and then also from Gorakshep to Everest Base Camp, and then back to Gorakshep. So I'll tell you about that tomorrow. day 10, only 10 days in, and so much walking going on. We left Lobuche and went all the way here to Gorakchep, the highest settlement in the world. And I just read that. That's one of those facts I just read and I've not checked, and I don't have internet to check here, so hoping that's true. Dropped our bags off in Gorakchep and then sojourned to Everest Base Camp. This is where the journey ends for a lot of people, but for us, of course, it is just the halfway point. And yeah, I mean, the walk to Everest Base Camp's amazing. You've got views of Lhotse and all the Himalayan peaks and these glaciers that move through the Himalayas. It's really beautiful. Everest Base Camp itself, I mean, is somewhat underwhelming in the fact that it is just a rock with Everest Base Camp written on it. But what it means to us is that we've kind of arrived and we've done a lot of good hiking and work, and it's just nice to celebrate arriving at a location where there's quite a nice view of the peak of Everest just peeking out from the fog. So we had a good time, a good hike. We're of course above 5,000 meters now. Last night we were in Lobuche, which was like, high fours. So today we broke 5, and yeah, we're really feeling the altitude. Lucas is in bed right now after returning from Everest Base Camp. He's got a bit of a headache. I'm doing okay. All of my altitude sickness seemed to manifest very early on. So now I'm doing fine. I think now's a really good time to talk about just my own mental state. You know, I've learned when I started these hikes, I realized as I was walking that almost every thought that I had was negative in some way. Oh, this is really difficult. Oh, I'm out of breath. Oh, my feet hurt. Oh, I don't know if I can do this. Oh God, there's still so long to go. I don't really consider myself a pessimistic or negative person, but I kind of realized I have this latent anxiety that just my internal monologue, even though my external projection is happiness and joy most of the time, I hope, I have an internal monologue that tends to be intensely negative, and walking and realizing that and watching that shift has been an incredible experience. And it has shifted. I mean, you're with your own thoughts, punctuated with mirth and interaction with the people I'm hiking with, but you're with your own thoughts so much. And after a while, you just realize, you know, this hike just goes on and on and on. We're walking, you know, between 5, 6, 7 hours a day, every day, relentlessly, cold showers in the cold, lots of time for thinking. And those thoughts have become more positive over time. I think that's a really cool thing. So yeah, tomorrow we're going to get up at sunrise and hike to Gorakchep and see the sunrise. I'll tell you all about that tomorrow.
There we are, Adam, halfway through what's now transpired to be the 2 passes plus EBC trek. It's not been without tribulation. There's been altitude sickness, there's been long days of hiking, but there's also been periods of profound self-discovery and internal kind of enlightenment. So it's been a real beautiful journey. Have you enjoyed listening to it?
I've loved it, yeah, and again, I just want to say that your voice notes are delivered so well with so much energy. And I was thinking to myself when I was listening back, what time of day were you recording these in? You know, was it sort of at the very end of the day as you were sort of putting your head down to sleep, or was it right early in the morning and you were kind of recapping the previous day?
It's so cold at night, mate. So what would happen is we'd get into the guest house, we'd get all set up. Emmy and Lucas would go and sit by the fire.
Yeah.
And I would just have sort of 10 minutes just to record something before I went and joined them. So it was a nice little quiet time at the end of each day.
Yeah, I love that. Regarding the 2 passes as opposed to the previously advertised 3, I'm someone who's guilty of placing quite a lot of pressure on my trips, and if I had thought above all else that I was going to do 3 passes, I know that would have hit me a little bit hard. Of course, I wasn't there with you at the time, so due to the weather conditions and the amount of snow and the fact that, you know, it would have been either dangerous or impossible. Is it something that you sort of just took on the chin and it was easy to digest, or did you feel a little bit let down by that?
Yeah, I think because also we were sort of constrained by the time that Lucas had. as
Right.
well. So we kind of knew that 3 passes might have been a push. And there was sort of talk that maybe some of us have to go off and do a peak or a pass, and then the other person would meet us further on down the line. I think when you're with people and you're being accommodating to everyone's schedule, these things hit less hard. If I'd been on my own, I might have kind of wanted to push for it.
Yeah.
But it came at the right time in the trip. It was very easy to adjust. We just got an itinerary for a 2 passes trek, just had an acclimatization day where we went to a cafe in Chikung, and it really didn't affect us too much. And I still feel like we kind of got to do the best stuff. It was really okay.
Yeah, I love that because of what that kind of means, or the message that sends, is that when you're with people and you enjoy spending time with them, and that the trip ultimately is more about the relationships you form whilst you're away. Reaching or being able to go through that 3rd pass wasn't the be all and end all. Now it was about sort of being there for the team and thinking about the greater good, if you know what I mean. And you know, I love that you kind of stuck together and tried to accommodate other people, as opposed to just were hell bent on, you know, completing what you'd set out to do, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And my whole experience of this trek has been one of Emmy and Lucas, really, those 2 individuals that I met. Like, I remember the whole trek through the eyes of being around them. So it was hugely important to me that the team stuck together and we did what was best for the team as we trekked around.
Yeah, that's wicked. Regarding accommodation, because there was 3 of you, did you find it difficult at all finding accommodation? I mean, you mentioned there that you even got free accommodation as long as you bought dinner in the restaurant, which is crazy flip on what we know. Conventionally, it's like a free breakfast if you stay in the hotel.
Yeah, and that's often the case. The Spanish couple that we met early on were amazing at negotiating this. They got like welcome teas and free internet and that sort of thing. But obviously the money-making thing is the restaurant for these tea houses, and it's the sort of the end of the season. Accommodation for 3 of us wasn't a problem, though. We would just get 2 rooms. If there was a charge for the rooms, we'd divide it by 3 as opposed to by 2, you know? We'd make sure that everyone got a fair situation, and oftentimes there was rooms with 3 beds, so we'd all just bunk together. It was no problem. Nice.
And then the food, what sort of food are you being served up there?
I mean, look, my altitude sickness and subsequent appetite loss lasted longer than I think is made clear on those recordings. I really didn't touch another Dao Bat until the very end of the hike, but the food is good for the most part. The food's really tasty. There's sort of a couple
What's in a Sherpa stew?
Potato and little pasta bits and various vegetables. It's quite a hearty, warming meal. Warmth is such a commodity on these treks. I feel like stews and soups and things like that are so valuable. You'll often have people eating garlic soup because that's good for altitude as well.
Wow. Yeah, and all of this, the produce that's used to cook these foods, they're all sort of brought up there, are they? Transported in? Because I imagine nothing grows there. Is that right?
Yeah, to a certain extent. The last place that things grow is just a little bit higher than Namche, but way below the sort of places that you end up. So eventually you're eating stuff that's brought via Porter, and the price is reflected. You know, the cost triples by the time you get to EBC.
Wow. Well, yeah, you've mentioned EBC there, which is Everest Base Camp, I assume. You said that most people use that as kind of a finishing point. What options do people have when they reach EBC? Why would they choose to stop there as opposed to you loop? I imagine you loop back and sort of complete the part of the trek that you did.
Yeah, and we'll definitely go on to talk about that. EBC and Annapurna Circuit are the 2 most popular treks here in Nepal. And if you go to the EBC trek, it's much shorter. You can do it in like 13 days. And at that point, EBC is your finishing point. You go right back.
Right,
and
on the same trail.
Back the way you came. Yeah,
right, okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Would it be useful for someone to do both, or do you kind of hike similar terrain?
Annapurna and EBC?
Yeah. Do people typically choose one or the other, or do people try and do both if they can, or is there no point to doing that?
No, both is totally like Emmy, who we were walking with, did both. Annapurna is a completely different region to the Everest region, completely different people, completely different mountains, completely different scenery.
Oh, wow.
Very much worth doing both of those. But we did EBC as part of our Three Passes trek, so that is very much incorporated in. And then we continued on. You make the EBC trek a loop by doing the next two passes.
Right, okay. Wow. That's, yeah, amazing. I mean, you must have met some really cool people while you were away.
Well, interestingly, mate, I had the idea before I set off that if I didn't meet people on the Hostel World app who wanted to do the same trek as me, it wouldn't be a problem because I would meet people on the way.
Yeah.
Very, very few people met along the way. It was pretty much me, Emmy, and Lucas the whole time. We met a few people. We met the Spanish couple. We met a couple of people. But really, for the most part, everyone was either with a guide or, you know, they weren't there, frankly. It was the end of the season. Most people were with a guide or on their way back down or something, you know. We didn't meet that many other travellers.
Would you recommend going at the time of year you did?
More than anything. I think that'd be my number one recommendation. I think we chose the exact right time to go.
Wow.
There was no one on the trails.
Yeah.
It was quiet, but the weather was still great. We had such good luck with the weather. The weather was amazing.
Apart from a bit of snow.
It was cold and there was a bit of snow that stopped that one pass, but for the vast majority of the time we were like hiking in beautiful sunlight.
Wow. I can't wait to see the pictures, mate.
I can't wait to show you the pictures, and I can't wait for next week's episode of Tripology because we've dealt with days 1 to 10, but the trip only continues and only gets more stunning and amazing and beautiful. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you. On the next episode of Tripology, we're going to be sharing more voice notes from days 10 all the way to day 20 of my now 2 passes trek through the Himalayas. I can't wait to share it with you. I can't wait to interact with the audience. They can email us, tripologypodcast@gmail.com, and follow us on Instagram @tripologypodcast. Adam, I'm ready for next week. Can I see you there?
I love it, mate. Let's do it.
Bye.
See you. Bye.